Good evening and welcome to Fridays Live with me, Raj NAYAK. This evening with me, I have a very dear friend who is extremely serious about everything in life, and yet he makes you laugh. He calls himself the henpecked husband. Who isn't? The very few admit it. He admits it openly on his social media, and he needs no introduction. He's a very, very famous comedian. He's been one of the persons who was on the initial Netflix show where they had a lot of comedians from all over the world. And he's moved away from corporate life. He calls himself the from CEO to CEO, from a chief executive officer to a chief entertainment officer. And that is my dear friend, Atul Khatri. Atul, thank you very much for being on this show.
Thank you so much, Raj. Thank you for having me over here. I'm a big fan of your Fridays live. And when I'm like an old man, I walk every evening for an hour and a half. And that's the time I listen to podcasts and interviews. And I am a big ardent fan of your Fridays live. So thank you so much for having me here. It's like a fan moment. You listen to a podcast and then one day you're invited for that. So it's one of those moments. So thank you so much.
Okay, Atul, I'm going to be a little honest with you right now. I can't see you. So just give me a second. I'm just trying to see why I can't see you. I must have pressed something, but let me see if I can get to see you. Okay, that's fine.
But I can see you. I think
Okay,
we are, yeah.
okay, we are fine. So, Atul, I told you what this show is all about. I don't even call it a show. I call it the live chat. And it's all about getting to know each other. We know each other. We've known each other. We know of each other, but we really, really don't know each other.
Correct.
And sometimes it could be your neighbor, like you mentioned. You
Yeah.
live in Juhu, and it's as simple as that. So this live chat is all about, it's a very freewheeling live chat. It's basically getting to know you and getting people who know about you for them to know you, and for people who don't know about you to get to know you. And that's what this is all about. So, one of the most interesting thing I noticed on your social media, I mean, you write yourself, your Twitter handle is called 1x2.
Yeah.
Why 1x2?
So 1 by 2 is this very unique concept of India. Like when we go out and we order soups, we do 1 by 2 because finally we pay for one, but we know we are getting around 1.2, 1.25, which is so lovely and so unique to India. And uh, so my first set, which I ever did on stage when I hit my first open mic, I wrote about this 1 by 2 soup. My experience with this 1 by 2 soup, how you can very confidently walk into any restaurant in India and say, make my soup 3 by 13, 2 by 18, make it any weird combinations. No, not 2 by 18. 2 by 18 will give you 9, but no, you have to give it like 2 by 23, and somehow they get you that. And I think that's so lovely, so unique to India. So I love this word, this term 1 by 2. So I just loved it. So that's why a lot of my handles are at 1 by 2. Yeah.
And what made you actually upfront write henpecked husband?
I think because I genuinely believe I'm a henpecked husband. You've heard of wife abusers. I think I'm a wife abusee. Where in the sense that, uh, and I think it's good. I think when a husband is henpecked, the marriage is long lasting, and you very quickly come to terms. It's good. As a comedian, you love first love to self deprecate yourself, and I think that way I've
It
acknowledged and
definitely
admitted.
attracts a lot of attention for sure.
Yeah, so I'm proud of that actually. Yeah, I love my wife, and good. At least she's keeping me under control. Yeah.
What's your wife's name?
She's Shaguna.
Shabna. And what does she do?
Shaguna. Yeah.
Shaguna. Okay.
Yeah. So Shaguna is actually she's a BA in economics, but she's also the hairstylist. She has a salon in Juhu, which has
Wow.
been running since the last I think uh, 12 years or 15 years, and last 4 5 years, not in the pandemic, the last 4 5 years, she's also become a home baker. So she makes these sourdough breads and focaccias and things like that. So she's sort of running like two parallel businesses, all from sort of home only. But yeah, so she's a, I would say, hairstylist come baker, and yeah, that's
See,
what she does.
see, that's it. I mean, I know you, and I know you live in Jew, and we know about each other, but I didn't know this part of it. And
Yes.
what's the salon's name? What's it called?
There's no really name. So behind the house, we had a garage, and she just operates from there based on appointments. But she's been there, and she's fairly popular in the area. And yeah, that's it.
And kids?
So I have two daughters. My elder daughter is 25. My younger daughter is 23. My elder daughter, Mishti, she is a fitness instructor. She has just completed a MSc in sports nutrition from UK. She, in fact, just came back in September to 2020. And my elder daughter has finished a MA in clinical psychology, and she's now working with a renowned psychiatrist.
Oh, interesting. In fact, my elder daughter did her master's in clinical psychology before going off to now she's doing a PhD in
Okay.
public health. Yeah. And what are their names?
Mishti and Dia. The elder one is Mishti,
Mishti
and the younger one is Dia. Yeah.
Mishti and yeah, okay, great. So Atul, tell me something about your. Let's go back, rewind, and go to your childhood. So tell me something about your childhood. I mean, tell me about yourself. Yeah.
So I'm a Bombay boy, and I grew up. I was born in Khar, suburb of Khar, and we were there till 1975. And we're a very typical conservative, close knit Sindhi family. We are four siblings. I'm the youngest one. I have an elder sister, then a brother and a sister, and then me. And grew up in Khar, studied in Bandra, and in 75, 76 we moved to Juhu, and since then I've already been living in Juhu all that while. And you know, I tell people that from my house I could see Juhu beach. Now you can't even see the you can't even see a coconut tree. That's a different how Juhu is developed. And then so I did my science here in Jai Hind College, and then I did my engineering again from Thadomal Shani College of Engineering. And this was I finished in 89 90, and that time my brother had started a computer business, and quickly I got into that, and both he, me, and some other directors, we ran that business. In the year 2000, I got this Chevening scholarship, Chevening or Chevening, how do you pronounce it? I know some people say Chevening, some say Chevening. It's a scholarship given by the British Council, by the British government. So I did management at the Manchester Business School, and yes, came back and was continuing my business. And uh, quickly, I mean, just to sort of sum it up, and at the age of 44 in 2012, I decided let me do something more with my life. So it was just started with a like a hobby. Uh, Tried my hands at a lot of different things. I wanted to become a bartender. I thought I wanted to become a DJ, and then finally, I think I settled at stand-up comedy. It started with an open mic, and then did both my work and my comedy for 4 years. And at the age of 48, in 2016, I quit my job completely and got full time into stand-up comedy. Yeah, this is in a nutshell, in a synopsis. Yeah.
But what attracted you towards comedy? I mean, how did you decide that this is what I want to do?
So really, when I went for my first open mic, there was no really. I just wanted to try something. Okay. So just rewind back to 2012 when I was 44. Maybe I call it midlife crisis. I was in an IT job which was fairly, very strenuous, like most IT jobs. I was actually part of sales and service of my. I was heading my that division in my company, and there we look at customers, servers, their networks, their PCs, and very, very high end critical equipment. And that's really a 24/7, 365 kind of a job, especially we were not a huge company, we were a small, medium business company, fairly profitable. And, but the buck really stopped here. So I was really getting burnt out, and my wife actually egged me that, listen, why don't you do something more? Your life just can't be like morning from 9 to night 9, 7 days a week, 6 days a week. You're just burning yourself out. Just I used to go to the gym and a little bit of
And you
socializing.
have Sindhi blood in you, so the entrepreneurial thing is there.
Yeah. So that was there. And so she said, you must try something different. So I said, yeah, why not? And maybe it was, and at 44, you realize you're at your peak, and after that, it's all downhill, maybe. So I said, let me try my hand at something else. So I started with I used to love, mixing music at home, English music. And so I said, let me try to become a DJ. So I went for a DJ course, and the DJ didn't turn up. Only he overslept. And so then I said that okay, this is not for me. Maybe God didn't want this to me. So then I think after a week or two, I signed up for a bartending course. That time there was this lady called Shapti Basu. She had come up with an institute called the Stir Academy, where I think she had come from America, and she started this academy of flair bartending. It was somewhere in Dadar. So again, I signed up for a course. It was on a Sunday afternoon. But I'm I'm a typical Sindhi. So on Sunday we have a very, very heavy lunch. and I overslept, and I never made it for the course. So first because of the DJ sleeping, and second because of my oversleeping, I missed both these sort of careers I would have gone into. And stand-up comedy sort of happened is like that was the time really, Raj, is that the stand-up comedy scene. This is I'm talking about in 2012. Which was really coming up. We had a comedy club in Bombay at the Palladium Mall called the Comedy Store earlier, which became the Canvas Laugh Club. And right now, as we speak, it is shut down. And so I went and watched some comedy shows there, and I said, hey, maybe I can do it, uh, because okay, when I look back, I was the funny guy in my friend circle, in my family circle. Every friend circle has this one guy who comes and cracks jokes and is sort of, I maybe when I look back, I think I was maybe that guy. And uh, and uh, what happened in 2010, I had joined Facebook, and Facebook was really the first platform which came where you could, write your, you know the quote of the day or the status update, and used to get instant gratification from friends and family. And actually, some of my biggest influences earlier were Behram Contractor, Busy Bee, and then
Yeah.
Nana Palkiwala. He used to run this talk of the town with the quote of the day. So those are my,
That is Nana Chudasman. That is
sorry,
Nana.
Nana Chosna, sorry, I'm so sorry, my mistake. Sheda
And
and
I
yeah.
never missed a single column of Busy Bee as long as he used to write in the
Oh, he was beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that satire, political satire, just satire, and so I used to. I was a big fan of those people. So I used to write my quote of the day, update of the day. It could be Bollywood, politics, whatever, about life. And people used to say, "Hey, you're very funny. You're very funny. You're very original. Why don't you try your hand at stand-up comedy?" But honestly, I didn't know what stand-up comedy was. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Johnny Lever, Raju Srivastava. That was the time that India Laughter Challenge was on TV, and and I said maybe I should give it a try. So actually, it was a New Year resolution, 1st Jan 2012. I said, let me do something. So I signed up for a comedy open mic, and comedy open mic is the only way to get into a stand-up comedy in the business. There's no other way. We don't have nepotism in stand-up comedy. Like, you have to be funny. It's very simple. Go up on stage, write jokes. If the crowd laughs, you're funny. If you're not funny, they don't laugh. So I wrote a set, and it was, I think, on 2nd or 3rd Feb 2012. I went up on stage for the first time and delivered some jokes, and people liked it. I met the other comedians and said, hey, you're very funny. You have an original voice. Just don't tick it off your bucket list and then never come back. Please, you're funny. Go for it. And Raj, honestly, after running 25 years of business, where you're in a very different orbit, suddenly, I remember the first that night where I went for my open mic, and the laughter was such that I didn't think. I remember I didn't sleep for 3 nights. It was just, resonating in my head. It gives you such an high, such a, dopamine hit, and that was very addictive. I said, now let me go back again. Then I went for another open mic, and that's how it started. I went for more open mics, started getting into the routine, and within 8 months, 9 months, I was getting paid for it. I never knew there was money in comedy. And so I did this for 4 years. And then at 2016, I quit all this and got full time into comedy. So yeah, it was started with an open mic, started with a hobby, never sort of, at that time, I didn't even know that this would be my second life as such. So yeah, so it worked out
that's
well.
that's so fascinating and so interesting. So tell me, I mean, you know, I would assume open mic is going there on stage and I mean, performing like you said. And if you're funny, people laugh, then you're funny. Uh, what was that fear? I mean, what was that thoughts going on in your head? Because when you have a successful life and you're doing well, and at 44, it's not even that you're starting your career to go in there and have that. Obviously, you would have that fear of failure, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
So,
so
first of all, we didn't tell my children about it, because that time my elder daughter was 17, younger was 15. We didn't tell them. My wife asked me, "Do you want me to come with you?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, please come," because I know it was in Worli. I said, "If I bomb, I don't want to jump off the ceiling. So please come with me as moral support." We didn't tell our children. We just told them we are going out for dinner.
how
And
old were they then? How old were they then?
17 and 15.
17.
Yeah, so they were actually in college then, and I had written a set, I had practiced it, and also a lot of things. So I was not one of those guys who in school or college are into elocutions or debates. I had tremendous stage fear that time. I still have it now. It's become less, but at that time I had tremendous stage fear. And I remember I wrote a set, practiced for hours, when I was to drive to work, wherever, in front of the mirror, sit and practice it. And and I remember when my name was called out, uh, I went on stage, I held the mic, and my legs were shivering, my throat became dry. I felt there was no floor underneath. But because I'd sort of mugged up my set so well that I delivered it nicely, and it did very well on stage, and the people, there's a 30-35 people, in the audience. They liked it, but there were 8-9 comedians. They also liked it. And at that time, most of the open mics, there used to be a contest. Whoever is the funniest, they used to give them a small, like a token prize. So I won that, my first open mic. I was the funniest that night. And yeah, and the prize actually that time for winning was that in the next comedy show which the organizer would arrange, I would get a 5-minute spot. So how stand-up comedy works is you typically start with a 3 or 5 minutes, then you slowly write more, write more, write more, write more, and then you have like a very solid 30 minutes or a 40 minutes. And so that's when you are called to be like a headliner. So that's how internationally how most comedy, the stand-up comedy scene works. So yeah, so I had to kill a lot of demons within me to get on stage. It was not very easy for me. Still, it's not easy. Before every show, before every interview, you have rats running in your stomach. I stop eating 1 hour before. I just keep on sipping water and just keep pacing up and down in the green room, because it's a live audience. You don't know how it's going to be. You don't know what day they have been through. They've had a bad day, they have a good day, they may have had a bad experience at the comedy club. So when you go on stage, they're anyway hating you. So it's a lot of things which work in a live atmosphere, in a live environment.
So now that's very interesting. You said that. I'm just trying to recollect. You never told your daughters, right? I mean, I can understand. I mean, every parents wants in the eyes of their children, they want them to shine, right? So do they take you seriously? I mean, do they take you? Do they find your jokes funny?
So with them, I do a lot of my dad jokes, typical dad jokes. Like on Diwali, I'll put on the lights and say, "Kya Diwali hai kya? Itni light kyun chalu hai?" So I do all those dad jokes with them, and yeah, they do find me funny. I was funnier with them before also, and but now I think I don't know. I just feel, I think that they have got more respect for me, because they know how tough the line is, because a lot of their friends have tried to get into comedy, they have not been successful. So they know how tough it is to go up on stage and make people laugh. And especially in today's environment where, you know, anything hits you, any news happens, within 1 hour, you have 200 jokes coming on that same topic. So when you go on stage, and your jokes have to rise above them. Otherwise, the audience will say, "Arey, ye to humne internet pe sun liya. Why are we paying so much money to come and watch him?" So it, I think, made a comedian's job more difficult in terms of writing more better and smarter jokes.
What was your first joke? Would you remember?
Yeah, actually, my first joke was this 1 by 2. So I'll tell you, it was like, so I remember as a child, I used to go to NSAI club in Worli. My dad had this group, my parents had this group of friends. They had their kids. So all of us, like, we used to be 15, 20. More or less every Sunday, we used to go to NSAI club. And there was an aunt, one of our aunts, and we were like, we must be 10, 12 or whatever. And we used to go there and order our soup. So waiters to come, acha, aap kya soup piyoge? We used to, acha, I'll have a tomato soup, I have a sweet corn chicken. We used to order the soups. And then the waiter would go to the head of the table, to that wicked aunt, and she would ask them, बच्चे लोग ने क्या order किया? You say, ये सुबह से काम करो, ये सब cancel करो, make it 3 by 13, you know. And then we used to get, such little soup that by the time the soup would come to us, it would evaporate. So then you do 3 by 13, you hardly get anything. So that was an angst within me. So I remember many times I used to tell my mom, I'm not going if that aunt is going to come, because we hardly get to eat anything. You know, and so that was my first joke about how 3 by 13 and 1 by 2, and how this is so, like I always assume that the waiter must be inside, the chef must be inside the kitchen, just sitting with calculators and computers, just computing these 2 by 2, 1 by 2, 3 by 18, and all these things combinations, and just to see that the restaurant doesn't go out of business. So that was my first set about this 1 by 2, how unique it is, and yeah, and I remember that was my first set. Yeah,
But it's very interesting. I grew up in an environment in Karnataka and Bangalore where we used to order coffee 1 by 2 in a
correct.
restaurant, and one of the reason you did that was when you ordered 1/2, they never actually gave you half.
Yeah, it's always you get more. You get 1.2,
Get more. So
1.25.
you
Yeah,
get,
yeah,
you get
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Instead of, it'll be 1.5 divided by 2 instead of
yeah.
1/2. So that and so yeah, so great. So you never told me about your parents. I mean,
Yeah.
so
So yeah, my we are Sindhi. So my dad was also born in Bombay. My grandfather also was born in Bombay, but my mom came from Pakistan in 1947 during the partition, and uh, dad was also a Bombay boy, and I think we grew up. He grew up in Thakurdwar, and then we moved to Khar, and he was a businessman. He was actually into the finance business, in the money lending business, film financing and hundi financing and that kind of a business for quite some time. But that business in Bombay automatically shut down close to 15-20 years back. You know,
I think all
and
over it was a huge business. I used to remember even as
yes,
growing up
yes,
as a child,
yeah, 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 yeah.
we had people, different kinds of people. If you wanted money, you went to a money lender those days.
Correct. And actually, let me tell you, I mean, this is something interesting. So we are Sindhis, and within Sindhis, if you know, there are, sub communities. So there are Amils, there are Hyderabadis, and we were Shikarpuris. And Shikarpuris typically are money lenders, like that's the thing. They are money lenders. And so it was like my grandfather was a money lender. So that was, yeah, so he was, my dad was a money lender. But I think 15-20 years back, his business sort of shut down, and we got him into our computer business, and he used to handle our finance and admin for our business when we were running it. So yeah, he was a big help to us, uh, yeah, especially in
Yeah, because
calculating interest.
a lot of people won't know because the way you can get things on EMI now, way you can probably easier to get a bank finance or bank loan. 25 years back,
It was not the case.
it
Yeah,
was not possible.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
not
yeah.
possible, and
And
that's
I remember, I mean, just to let people know that they used to give daily financing. Give a businessman money in the morning, in the evening they collect the money back along with interest. It was daily financing, which I believe still happens in Bombay, in these small shoe stores and things like that, where they want money in the morning to buy their goods. By evening they do their business and they pay interest on the capital, basically.
yeah.
I mean, but these are not there for many time. I mean, my dad got out of the business long time back, but these businesses are still sort of little thriving in down south, and in Madurai, Chennai, and uh, these places. It's still a little bit there, but it's a dying business because now finance is so easy to get from the banks.
So let's come back to your comedy part of it, and so tell me, you mentioned a lot of your daughter's friends and have tried to get into comedy stuff, right? And I'm sure there are thousands of people, I mean, who probably will watch this live chat and will want to know, hey, this is Atul Khatri's life. At 44, he managed to break the barrier, get into comedy, and today he's a headliner. He started with 3 minutes and 5 minutes, and now he's a headliner. He performs shows all over the world. So you become sort of an aspiration for a lot of people. So what is the tips? What is it that you tell them if you want to get into comedy? What are the 3 or 4 steps that somebody needs to do?
So first of all, as I said earlier, the only way to get into stand-up comedy line is through an open mic. There are open mics which happen all across India. They happen in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, Chennai. Everywhere open mics are happening. The scene right now has grown. At one time, it was really a very Bombay and a Delhi scene, but now it's all over India. So only way to get into an open mic, write original jokes. Please don't copy jokes. You cannot take jokes from the internet. You cannot take jokes from other comedians. You cannot take jokes from comedians abroad. चेंज इट, उसको थोड़ा ट्विक करके इंडिया में इंडियन का तड़का डाला के इधर चिपका डालो. Nothing of that, nothing. Because even though the world is so huge, but within the comedy circle, if we come to know that a comedian is stealing jokes from anywhere, he is automatically sort of thrown out of the business. Nobody will stop talking to him. Comedy clubs will stop hiring him. Other comedians will stop talking to him, saying that he's a thief of jokes. So we take plagiarism extremely, extremely seriously. And so yes, write original jokes and go on stage and perform. And as I said, our art is so simple and pure that if you're funny, the audience will laugh, because the laughter is a very, very natural reaction. You cannot force it. Even if I am your friend on stage, but I'm not giving jokes, you will definitely not laugh. So yes, go on stage, uh, perform these jokes. And other tip which I will say is, it's a very serious business. It's a very, very difficult and serious business, the comedy business. Uh, you know, it's a lot of youngsters come to it that, hey, it's cool. Maybe I'll find women because they say women like funny guys and all that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. It's a very, very difficult business. And other thing is, please go and watch live comedy. One of the mistakes I've seen a lot of young comedians do is they sit at home, watch Netflix, watch YouTube, uh, never get out and watch live comedy which is happening. Because what happens, you may have an American comedian as your idol, but understand that American comedian has been doing comedy in a country for the last eight, which has stand-up comedy for the last 80, 100 years. In India, the scene is just 10 years old. Actually, 2020, we are celebrating the 10 years of stand-up comedy scene, because the stand-up comedy scene in India started 2010. So 10 years is a very, very short term. So what happens is that uh, your material has to relate to the Indian audiences. You cannot, you know, come up with, you may be a big fan of dark jokes, but the audience also has to accept it. So you have to be relatable. So one of the things is, come and watch live comedies. What is the audience is laughing at? What are the comedians speaking on stage? And that's as simple as that. And it's, if your jokes don't work, go back to the writing table, rewrite your jokes, again come back and try. And let me tell you how difficult it is, Raj, that world over, to write 5 minutes of nice content, killer content, it could take a comedian close to 1 month, you know because just most of the comedians worldwide have a 1 hour special every year, which is really 60 minutes of content. So if you break 60 minutes in 12 months, it's exactly 5 minutes per month. So it's a tough thing, but it's very exciting. The dopamine hit, the adrenaline rush, the you there's nothing which can compare it. Yes, maybe a rock star, or if you're a part of a huge music band, you get the same kind of thing, maybe more. But it's a great line, and yeah, I think these are the tips I would like to give people. And also, one small tip is, people who are sort of working and want to get into stand-up comedy, one of the biggest mistakes sort of young comedians do is, they hit the first one or two open mics, they do well. Next day, they go and resign from the job and say, hey, this is my calling. I want to follow my passion. But, you know, maybe your second, third, fourth, fifth open mic doesn't go well. But finally, you need money to pay your bills, survive in this world. So, luckily, stand up comedy is an evening profession. For 4 years, when I was a CEO, when 2012 I started, in 2016 I quit. For 4 years, I used to do crazy time management, multitasking. I remember at work, I used to, we used to usually wear a shirt and a tie and trousers at work. But I remember I used to always carry my jeans and t-shirt in my bag. And at 7:30, when office used to shut, I used to rush to my office toilet, change into jeans, t-shirt. I used to always, I have a joke on that. I've always felt like Clark Kent, you know, getting into his, removing his office clothes, wearing a Superman costume, and going out to save the world. That was the feeling I used to get. So yeah, I used to rush to the comedy club, and you have to give a lot of time to it, and it's go and attend shows, watch shows, take part in. Sometimes you have to travel a lot just to do 5 minutes of content. Like, you will get a spot in Kolaba comedy club, so you have to go all the way from Juhu to Kolaba just to try 5 minutes of material, because that's a time given to you. So it's tough, but it's highly enjoyable. Yeah. So for people who are working, or who are, want to moonlight it, weigh your pros and cons. See that after 2 3 years you're doing well in comedy, you're making money, then only quit your job and get full time into comedy. Don't leave your job in the first instance, get into it, because I know a lot of my friends, comedian friends, who did that, didn't do very well in comedy, and now they're trying to get a job back, and somehow you don't get the right job back again.
Yeah, it can be tough. So my question to you is, when you thought of doing this, how well does comedy pay? I mean, from a financial point of view, is it paying?
Yes, actually, so I'll just tell you where all a comedian can make money. Obviously, is through public ticketed shows. So you announce a show in an auditorium, you sell tickets, you know, people come, you make money out of ticketed shows. We do a lot of private shows, a lot of corporate shows. Uh, then comedians are typically writers, so we get a lot of writing jobs also. So, just to let you know, IFA awards, or some of these, the film awards, the Filmfare awards, where Shah Rukh or Arjun Kapoor, or they go up on stage, or a Ranveer goes on stage and hosts the show. If you see, there's a lot of jokes and things like that. They're written by comedians. Like some of my friends have written shows. I've also been a part of some of these writing rooms where we write, gags and things like that for these award shows. Uh, we do get a lot of branded work. So some of the comedians, if you're big on social media, you get a lot of branded influencing work. You get comedians I know have been working on movie scripts also. Some of the comedians have their own web series and all on OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon. Uh, yeah, so there are various, once you're there in the regular circuit, you're good. And again, there's a lot of hard work to it. So it's like, honestly, I'm telling you, I'm working more than I used to work as a CEO of the company here, because now it's my own brand. I'm the only one here. And so it's a lot of hard work. But and if you're good, if you're dedicated, if you're honest to your work, which actually holds true for any line of work, you will do well.
Interesting. So, I had some thought that had come to my head. I'm just,
That's okay.
I'm just. So tell me, now that you've been a headliner and you're doing shows all over and things like that, and you mentioned social media. If you're active on social media, that's what you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've been following you on social media. I follow your Twitter handle, and you've been very vocal about issues in what's happening in the world.
Correct.
So that's why I mentioned right at the beginning that you're very serious about what's happening, and then yet you're funny. And and some of your jokes that I've listened to, you also make us think. It's not just make us laugh, but you also make us think. So my question to you is: today in the Western world, you can crack a lot of jokes on anything and get away with it, right? What are the limitations that you find in India?
Okay. So first of all, let me tell you, as I said, I started writing jokes on Facebook and Twitter, or whenever Twitter came. But on Facebook, that was the first sort of, since 2010. So since last 12 years, sorry, 10 years, I've been, putting up jokes. Every day I put up 3, 4 jokes on Twitter or on Facebook. And I've been doing it since the last 10 years. It's not in the last, 4 years or 6 years or 8 years. I've been doing it since 2010. And typically, it's again, as my inspirations were, Behram Contractor, Nana Chudasma. Those are my inspirations. Where it's a quote of the day. And we live in India, which is such a beautiful country where you have so many things to talk about. I always tell people say, where do you find your jokes? I say, open Times of India, you'll find 4 of those jokes every day. There's so much material we have. If our country is so beautiful, so diverse, there are cars, there are communities, there's Bollywood, there's cricket, there is politics, there's so many things you can, find jokes on. So yeah, so one thing is, I've been doing it for a very, very long time. It's like it's like a, I would say, like a practice which I have every day of, sitting and opening the paper and thinking of jokes and just putting up your thoughts, basically your thoughts or an opinion. uh, First of all, let me tell you, I think other than America, which has got complete, absolute, freedom of speech, as if that's what we are talking about right now, that's very. I think they have the absolute freedom of speech, where comedian or a host can go in the night and take digs directly at the president of the country.
Or even religion. I mean, I've been to
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah. They talk about everything, and really, if you really ask me, uh, that is that is how jokes should be. Ricky Gervais is a very, very famous comedian, has said that you can, ideally speaking, you can make jokes about anything. There's no topic, because finally they are jokes. When we comedians write jokes, we don't write it specifically. "Ki chalo, yeah, let's get up and come on, let's offend somebody. You know, it's always a thought in your head, which is there, and you hit it. If it hits well, it hits. Doesn't hit, it's a bad joke. Move ahead. That's typically how jokes are. So first, that is the thing. However, many countries around the world, like Thailand, for example, or Dubai, for example, a lot of countries in Europe also, they also have their things like you can't talk about these things. Similarly, in India also, and India, let me tell you what we have to be careful as comedians is that stand-up comedy as a genre is very, very new. Tell me, I'll ask you, Raj, a question. When is the last time you attended a stand-up comedy show, live stand-up comedy show? Maybe
Well, definitely not in the last one year for
no,
sure.
obviously, yeah, not 1 year, but when did you have you watched a comedy show live? Well,
Uh,
you paid ticket and gone to an auditorium and or a comedy club and watched it. Have you ever done it? No.
I have done it, but not in the last 3 years at least.
Exactly. So what happens is that a lot of people in India have not watched our comedy. Now what happens is it becomes a responsibility of the comedians not to scare them. For example, I'll tell you. Last year I performed in Udaipur, a stand-up comedy show. It was first time in Udaipur. I was sort of creating history. First time in Udaipur, a stand-up comedy show was happening. There were 300 people over there. It becomes a responsibility of the comedians to not scare them away from our genre of comedy, where they'll say, "Acha, ye hota hai stand." So I can't go and hit them with absolutely dark jokes or crazy political jokes or crazy sexual jokes, where they get scared and say, "Boss, this is comedy." "Nahi, nahi, bhaiya, humko nahi dekhna. We are happy with what we are seeing on TV." So it becomes a responsibility of the comedians to do it. As far as an opinion is concerned, see, I am a citizen of the country. I am 52 years old. I have an opinion about whatever. If
Everything.
somebody does well, I will, and I read newspaper every day. And there's a practice I've been doing for last, I don't know, 25 years, where every morning 8 to 8:30, both me and my wife, we have this time where we don't talk to each other. Just with a cup of tea, we are just sharing pages of newspaper with each other and going through the entire newspaper. And uh, and that's a good habit, because as a result of which I don't rely too much on TV on my news, which today has become so toxic that you cannot rely on TVs as a source of news. So newspaper for me today is the primary source of news. And I've been reading the newspaper. I have my opinions on it, and I have been saying it. Earlier, you should say it to your friend circle. When Facebook came out as a platform, you said it over there. Now Twitter is there, you say it on Twitter. What you feel about it? If somebody's done good, talk good about it. If somebody's done bad, say bad things about it. And also what happens, and here I'm getting slightly political, I'm saying, in absence of currently in our country where there is no opposition, it becomes every citizen's responsibility, to as much as possible to try it and become an opposition and say your voice. If you feel what is going right, what is going wrong, say it. And I don't rely on first news. It doesn't that what happens. You're also, I see you on Twitter, very active. Twitter mein kuch ho jata hai, I don't react immediately. I wait, I read what is happening, and next day maybe I may react or put up a post on that, what I've genuinely felt has happened. It's not a first thought or some crazy reaction. So the tide is talking this way, chalo, let me also go this way. No, 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 it's not that. So yeah, so that's when it comes to you have to be political, and in our country you cannot be apolitical any longer now. You have to take a side, or you have to have an opinion. I'm not saying take a side. I'm not talking about polarization here, but I'm saying have an opinion. And also, one thing, there was this very great movie in pandemic came out on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which gave me
Yeah.
a very good lesson, is that what is happening is today now, Raj, is if suppose you have a liberal mindset or I have a liberal mindset, typically if you start, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram will start showing you only those same your like-minded thoughts, those posts coming up and up
It's
and
called
up
the
again.
echo chamber.
Yes. So you are just continuously, and you're not listening to the other side at all, which they could be right also. So actually, and Social Dilemma said that in the end, the summary was that don't only follow your thoughts, follow also the opposing thoughts. So you'll get both sides of the story. So after that, I started following a lot of, the other side also, to just get a balanced view of what is happening, and see that, I'm not too, alienate, or I'm not too polarized in my thoughts. So that's typically what I do.
Yeah, something very interesting you said, that as a citizen you can't be a political. You don't have to take sides, but you can speak up and say what is right and what is wrong.
Absolutely.
Have you?
Because yeah, it's a responsibility as a citizen to question anybody.
Yeah. Have you had any? Yeah, because one of the challenges that is there now, and I've seen that, is when a lot of stand-up comedians have got into trouble because a video clipping or something goes viral, and then you got trolls and you got all kinds of in some cases even FIRs and things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever got into any trouble?
No, so first of all, I mean, most of these people you're talking about have been targeted for their religious jokes, or sometimes jokes which have been honestly taken out of context, and people have just made a political issue about it. Uh, you know, uh, the thing is that, first of all, I don't right from beginning. It's not now. I've been doing comedy since last 8 years now. I've never written a religious joke because I don't want to do it. For example, I don't do fart jokes. A lot of, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I as a human being, I don't like it.
yeah,
Uh, I have never written a religious joke. Uh, you know, uh, See, but Raj, let me tell you, aaj kya hai na problem is that a person can get offended by anything.
yeah, yeah. Of
I
course.
can say it's a beautiful day in Bombay today. Still, I'm telling you, I'll tweet it right now, and within 1 hour, there will be some 8 guys who will give me bad words and say, "Sala, tu idhar aa. Yahan, what is the Delhi mein pollution kitna hai? You guys in Bombay enjoying." You say anything, you say the most beautiful thing. People will anyway take it out of context because God has given Android and Apple, and Geo has given 4G. So everybody has got this supercomputer in the hands, where they can put their opinion, also throw stones at you, and forget me, big people have got trolled. I mean, I am nobody in this ecosystem, but I've never, because my jokes really don't go there. I'm a comedian. My job is to make people laugh. I do put up my points in a very nice, it's like, uh, क्या बोलते हैं, सांप को मारो भी लेकिन लाठी न टूटे. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the whatever I forget the actual Hindi muhavra for it, but सांप भी मरे लेकिन लाठी न टूटे. So you convey your jokes in a way that people get the point without even probably naming the person or naming the people. Uh, and it's a smart way to do it. It's a nice way to do it, and I try my best to stay away from, because I personally don't like it. And let me tell you again, once again, I'm telling you, no comedian. Maybe some of the young comedians today want to get into limelight or something. They may want to you know quickly rise to fame, so they say, "Oh, chalo, let's come on, very hard hitting political or religious jokes." I don't know. Maybe that's the thought process. No, yeah, I'm in this game for a long run. I want people coming into my audience to enjoy and go, not to really offend. And no comedian today writes jokes sitting on the writing table and say, "Chalo, yeah, chalo, let me offend somebody." People to anyway get offended. You say whatever. So yeah, that's not my style actually.
So, what are the challenges you face? Because you know you can't keep creating new content all the time, right? A lot of your content must be library content, which I would assume,
Hmm,
which probably you change it over a period of time.
correct.
But with social media and things being there, so do you restrict audience from not taking a video or things like that? How does it work?
Yeah, so typically what happens is that, uh, unfortunately, in the comedy space, what has happened is more and more now, thanks to social media, is whenever you announce a show, you'll get at least 10 guys saying, "Sir, I watched you 6 months back. Are you going to repeat any of the same jokes?" I ask the same people, when you go to an Arijit Singh concert, and if Arijit Singh will not sing Channa Meria, which he sung 4 years back or 3 years back, you are going to throw stones. कि इसने Channa Meria नहीं गाया, which is and probably that lyrics better than Arijit Singh now today. You know, so musicians get a very different thing. I know comedians, sorry, singers who have been belting out Kishore Kumar songs and Mohammad Rafi songs since last 20 years.
Even actors saying the same dialogues.
Okay, maybe. But no, but more in terms of, and I say, listen, even when I write a joke, no, even my joke is like an Anand Bakshi lyric. It's got a long lasting value. So come back again, and I ask them very, tumko kaam dhanda nahi hai, you watch me 6 months back, you still remember my jokes. You don't have any other work. So I watched Johnny Liver Sub 2 years back. I'll still go and watch him whenever he comes back again, because I love him as an artist. So whether you follow the jokes or whether you follow the artist, that's very important. But yes, having said that, I think every comedian's, as I told you right in the beginning, our biggest challenge is to keep on churning out new jokes. And but yes, I usually we recommend to our people is, if you watched a comedy, any comedian, if you watch me, Russell Peters, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, Veer Das today, and you watch him again after 6 months, maybe some of those jokes may be repeated. He'll have a new, fresh set, plus some old set. But if you watch the comedian again after maybe a year and a half, you'll maybe get to see a new 60 minutes.
Got it.
Because as comedians also, this is our line, so we have to continuously write new jokes, better our writing skills, better the topics we are talking about. And yes, we don't allow people to record our sets because this is intellectual property. This is, we've worked very hard on these jokes. We don't want, today what has happened, thanks to this stupid smartphone, everybody can sit in the auditorium and remove your, video and put it up on their own YouTube page. we restrict that, rightfully restrict that.
So, who is your famous comedian? Your favorite comedian?
So, as from childhood, my favorite comedian was Sri Johnny Lever. I remember when I used to go for work, I used to have his, that time we used to have audio cassettes in our car. And after 45 minutes, the audio cassette used to automatically reverse and you hear the next side. I remember his cassette used to be there inside, I think, for months, that same jokes. And I remember, I mean, uh, I can still, if Johnny Lever sir performs those jokes, I'll still go and watch them. I'm such a big fan of Johnny Lever sir. Raju Srivastava, a lot of these people in the Indian Laughter Comedy Challenge, which used to come on TV. Uh, Internationally, the first comedy set which I watched was of Eddie Murphy, Delirious, which is, I think, in Netflix now. I'm a big fan of Russell Peters. Uh, and within my current contemporaries, a big fan of Veer Das because Veer puts in a lot of hard work in the line. He's probably one of the most hardworking comedians today, and it is somebody who we look up to. And Raj, not to be really politically correct, but I know how tough the line is. So any comedian who can go up on stage and make people laugh, I really respect them. Because I genuinely know how difficult it is today to make people laugh in a live show. So yeah, so I think lot of comedians are there, and they are growing every day. One thing which I wanted to tell you was, earlier our stand-up comedy genre was a very English, urban, niche, Bombay City, Metro City kind of audiences. But now, thanks to Geo, the last 3-4 years, you have comedians coming from within the, I would say from the rural areas, from Meerut, from, you know, Jalandhar, from Ludhiana, from these other small cities. And their stories are beautiful, and it's also becoming in different languages. Today, you have comedy in Punjabi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, uh, and they are so, because one thing you have to realize, our languages are so rich. Uh, the Hindi or Telugu, some of the words are so rich, which in English will never just sound correct. They have to be said in the native language. So that is the new wave which we are seeing today, and where we'll see, and that is really really growing, and it's a very very nice and welcome change actually.
And you do yours only in English, or you also do
It's
Hindi?
actually English. It's mainly English, but I do a lot of Hindi in it. Yeah, I am a Sindhi, but I don't know how to speak Sindhi. Uh, but maybe it's somewhere in the bucket list to do like a 10-20 minute set in Sindhi, just to improve my own Sindhi speaking skills. Yeah.
Great, Atul. I mean, it was fabulous speaking with you. I mean,
Thank you, Raj.
I didn't know so much about comedy and how tough it is. It all looks very easy. You sit in front of the television, or you go to a play and you laugh and you come back, and when the joke is not great, you actually say, "Oh, bekar joke hai," but you don't realize. Probably now, when I go to a comedy club or watch comedy, and even if I don't like it, I mean, if I don't enjoy the joke, I wouldn't say I don't like it. Even if I don't, I'm sure my respect for comedians has gone up tremendously, tremendously. I
Thank you,
know how
Raj.
difficult it is, because even you know when we decided to launch a comedy show, so we know what the problems are. One of the biggest challenge for even broadcasters
Yeah,
is
for GC is the yeah
comedy. I mean, getting comedy right is you get it right, then magic happens. But
yeah.
otherwise, it's extremely challenging. It's not easy.
And especially one point, and especially in GC, where on TV, where you cannot say half the things. We are privileged on stage; we can say things. I know on TV you cannot say 80% of things which we say on stage. So there it is more difficult.
In fact, if you go back, actually, there was a lot you could say. There used to be a show called Movers and Shakers, years
Correct.
ago, and Shaker Suman that time.
Yeah.
He used to crack jokes, and he used to,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
was a political.
And before that, Jaspal Bhatti show on Doordarshan. Can you
On
imagine?
Doordarshan, yeah,
Which is the government controlled TV channel. He used to go and make fun satire on the government itself. On
exactly.
different
So that's
departments.
yeah, that's the change that I've seen, which is very sad actually,
Hmm.
because you would have expected us to go forward, and we have actually gone backward to that extent. At
And
least.
Raj, sorry to say, now even the OTT platforms are coming under that same, umbrella or the same thing of
Regulation.
censorship, where they have been, we've been told that you have to start censoring yourself even on OTT.
Yeah.
So, okay, but then that's a good thing. If you want to hear the asli thing, then come for a live show, pay tickets and come for a live show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's how we look at it, right? You look
Yeah.
from a positive prism. That's but fantastic, amazing speaking to you, Atul.
Thank
Uh,
you, Raj. Thank you for this opportunity and pleasure
and
to
it
meet you.
was
And
nice.
hopefully, we'll bump into Joe one of these days.
Yeah, we should. Once
Yeah,
the vaccine, we all get vaccinated and we are
correct.
all free to go out in the physical world and meet people, we'll definitely catch up.
See you, Raj. Thank you so
You
much.
take care. Thank you so much.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye. See
you.
you.
Bye-bye.